The obvious reading of Askeladd is that he's a master manipulator. The slightly deeper reading is that he's a tragic anti-hero. The deeper reading still is that he's Thorfinn's true father. All of those are true, but the thing most people miss, the thing that makes him one of the most quietly devastating characters in all of Seinen manga, is this. Askeladd is a man who spent his entire life doing the work of a hero while being completely certain he wasn't one. Not because he failed to live up to his ideals, because he decided somewhere along the way that he had been permanently disqualified from embodying them. He became the closest thing to Artorius in the entire story, and never once permitted himself to recognize it. Askeladd's mother fills his childhood with stories of Artorius, not merely as mythology, as hope, as a framework for understanding what the world could be and what kind of person might one day make it so. The legend isn't just entertainment. It's a promise. Someone worthy will come. Someone who carries greatness, not through brutality, but through something rarer and more difficult. And the child who listens to those stories, caught between worlds, intelligent beyond the people around him, carrying his mother's hopes on his back. That child is the closest thing to the shape of the hero that the story describes, not in deeds, in position. If this were a myth, those would be the origins of the chosen one. Then reality intervenes. His mother dies. His father remains what he is. The world rewards brutality. Survival requires deception. And somewhere in the violence of becoming who he needs to be to stay alive, Askeladd reaches a conclusion that becomes the foundation of everything that follows. I understand what the hero should be. Therefore, I know I am not him. That is a subtle distinction, and it is everything. Most fallen characters fail to live up to their ideals. The ideal remains, the person falls short, and the tragedy is the distance between the two. Askeladd doesn't seem to believe he fell short. He seems to believe he became disqualified. As if there is a line that, once crossed, removes a person permanently from consideration. Not a moral line necessarily, but a line of worthiness, of being the kind of person the story was pointing at. He crossed it. He moved on. He carried the dream forward for someone else. People remember Askeladd as a manipulator, the man who moves pieces, kings, warriors, princes, children, toward outcomes that serve his purposes. But what are his purposes? This is the question that changes everything when you answer it honestly. Askeladd doesn't manipulate people for power. He doesn't accumulate wealth or territory or legacy in any conventional sense. He doesn't build something that bears his name. He manipulates people to create conditions. Conditions for what? For the hero who hasn't arrived yet. Every cynical move, every ruthless calculation, every compromise he makes with the world as it is, all of it is in service of a future he believes belongs to someone else. He moves kings because the hero hasn't arrived. He protects whales because the hero hasn't arrived. He survives decade after decade of brutality because the hero hasn't arrived. The man everyone reads as acting for himself is almost entirely acting for others, but not in the way of the altruist, who knows what they're doing and finds meaning in the sacrifice, in the way of someone who has so completely written himself out of the moral accounting that the selflessness doesn't even register as selflessness. He doesn't think of it as sacrifice. He thinks of it as his function, what the disqualified do while waiting for the qualified to appear. Simone Weil wrote about this condition. the person who carries something sacred while believing themselves unworthy of it. Not cynicism, not virtue. Something more specific and more devastating than either. The divorce between what you protect and what you believe you deserve. That is Askeladd's psychology exactly. People often say that Askeladd sees potential in Thorfinn and Canute. That's true, but incomplete. What he sees in them is possibility. Possibility that he no longer grants himself. This asymmetry is the most revealing thing about him. He can imagine Canute becoming a king worth following. He can imagine Thorfinn becoming something greater than a killer. He can imagine the future being redeemed. He can see clearly the arc that takes these broken, incomplete young men towards something worthy of the dream his mother gave him. He just can't locate himself in that vision. Look at what he does with that inability. He becomes the condition for their becoming. He puts himself in their path, not as mentor, not as father exactly, not as guide, as the friction that produces what they need to become. He is the whetstone, the resistance, the pressure that reveals what the blade is actually made of. And he knows exactly what he is doing. That's the part that breaks something. Not that he sacrifices himself for them, that he understands the sacrifice so clearly and still cannot extend to himself the same belief in redemption that he extends to them without hesitation. The most consequential lie Askeladd tells may not be any of the lies he tells others. It may be the one he tells himself. Not that he is a good man, not that he is a bad man. The lie is that his role is fixed, that he can only be the one who clears the path, never the one who walks it. Most people read Askeladd's death as a hero's sacrifice, and from the outside, from Canute's perspective, from history's perspective, from the audience's perspective, that is exactly what it is. But I don't think that's what Askeladd thought he was doing. I think Askeladd died believing he was playing the villain one last time. The calculation was cold and precise. Canute needs the threat of Askeladd removed to consolidate power. Thorfinn needs the grief of losing him to begin the long process of becoming something other than a killer. Wales needs a gesture that costs more than words. The situation has one solution that serves every purpose simultaneously. He finds it. He executes it. He dies. The audience sees nobility. Canute sees nobility. History sees nobility. But Askeladd, if the reading holds, sees something different. He sees the last useful move of a disqualified piece, not a hero's ending, a calculation that happens to require his death. Self-forgiveness is the one thing he never extends to himself, which makes what he actually did, viewed from outside the distortion of his own self-perception, almost unbearably poignant. He spent decades building conditions for a world he assumed belonged to someone else. He protected the dream his mother gave him through every compromise, every cruelty, every survival. He recognized the heroes in two broken young men and gave everything he had left to clear the path for them. He became the closest thing to Artorius in the entire story, not despite his cruelty, not despite his manipulation, because he never stopped serving the ideal, even when he had fully convinced himself he had been excluded from it. A cynic abandons the ideal. An idealist expects vindication. Askeladd does neither. He cares deeply and expects nothing. He builds toward a future he has already excluded himself from. He sacrifices, if that word even applies to someone who doesn't experience it as sacrifice, for a dream he decided long ago was not for him. The central tragedy of Askeladd is not that he never became Artorius. It is that He became the closest thing to Artorius in the entire story, and never permitted himself to recognize it. The boy who heard his mother's stories and unconsciously felt the shape of the hero in them, who crossed a line and decided the shape no longer fit, who spent the rest of his life protecting the dream while exiling himself from it. He built what Artorius would have built. He paid what Artorius would have paid. He cleared the path that Artorius would have cleared, and died, almost certainly, believing he was just the villain doing what needed to be done. Askeladd spent his whole life protecting a dream he had decided was not for him. He never once considered that he might already be living it. Build quietly. Walk your path.